You are listening to the podcast of Ice and Fire, episode 89 for the week of October 14th, 2012. Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of the podcast of Ice and Fire. We are the longest running podcast dedicated to the epic glory of George R. R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire saga, occasionally HBO's Game of Thrones series, and sometimes Pokemon. Welcome back, listeners, to yet another episode, and we are going into a very special episode today with a very special guest host that some of you might be unfamiliar with. As those of you who've been following the podcast and following Tower of the Hand closely might know, Tower of the Hand has recently, on Saturday, October 13th, released an ebook, a deep analysis of subjects in Song of Ice and Fire from several prolific authors, and one of them is here with us today. As always, this is Mimi.
This is Ashley.
And this is Kyle.
And our guest host for today is Amin. Why don't you introduce yourself, Amin?
Hello, everyone. My name is Amin. I got into the series about the time Storm of Swords came out, and I'm looking forward to podcasting today. I'm a little new to podcasting, so hopefully you guys can lead me in.
Are you nervous about this?
Yeah, but I've heard good things about this podcast. I heard you're very professional.
Well, don't fuck it up.
We'll break it in. So Amin is a contributing author in the Flight of Sorrows book and has written a really interesting essay that we'll discuss today for this podcast. Did you guys want to go ahead and talk a little about this book? Amin, do you want to just sort of review it for listeners who haven't been listening to our last few episodes?
No. I mean,
Wow.
I think it's better if you say it. I think just.
That's the most honest a guest has ever been with us.
Well, so for those of you who haven't been following the past few episodes, and why the hell not, Tower of the Hand has produced its first essay book. It's on sale on Amazon for $5.99, ebook only, and it contains 8 original essays about A Song of Ice and Fire. It's written by Tower of the Hand editors, some contributors, and of course, 2 of us here from the podcast, myself and Amin. 2 samples are up on the Tower of the Hand website, so if you're thinking about picking up this book, you should take a look at the caliber of writing. It's very high. And
There are 2 samples up on Tower
2
of the Hand?
Mm-hmm.
There's yours. I know that. Who's the other one?
Stefan from Brother.
Oh, nice. I'm going to have to go check that out.
Yeah, his is called Under the Bleeding Star, and this one was one that I think a lot of people anticipated. It's about the role of prophecy in Song of Ice and Fire, so I know that that's sort of a hot subject with people who like to analyze the books, so it's very good. And there's, even a bit of an overlap there with mine as well. Mine is about the Dunk and Egg novellas, and I talk a little bit about prophecy in there as well, so...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out a quick disclaimer. In my novella, I used the wrong word for hordes. I used hominum, and I don't know that a lot of people will notice that immediately, but I felt pretty stupid. So just remember that this is my 3rd language, and please don't hate me for getting that wrong.
Just tell me you use Mongol balls somewhere in your essay.
I tried. I really tried it in there, but I couldn't.
Failure.
Well, the feedback's been really good on Tower of the Hand, I think, so far. For your
Yeah, absolutely. Excited. Some people have won copies of it.
They've got what copies?
Some people won a few copies, early editions, and provided feedback early.
Nice. And they loved every essay but you 2. So there we go.
I could just throw that all out there. I mean, we've got a forward from Phil from Winter is Coming, an intro from Mark, the editor, Stefan, Miles, who is also an essayist at Tower of the Hand, Alex, co-founder of Tower of the Hand, this guy Amin, I don't know who the fuck that is, John also
sounds Canadian.
Douglas Cohen, who's an author and former editor of Realms of Fantasy magazine. Obviously, Mark, our editor, also contributed an essay. This bitch Mimo, I don't know anything about her either.
Mimo.
Who we interviewed on the podcast, who is the co-author of In at the Crossroads and Feast of Ice and Fire, the cookbook.
Nice.
Yeah.
I may ask you to repeat things, Mimi, because your audio keeps missing a word here and there. So if I say what, you know what's happening.
God damn. Okay.
Yeah. The last one was Chelsea. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got cut off.
Yeah. She went a little techno on us there for a little bit too. Nice. Well,
My
that sounds.
microphone's getting excited. That's all.
Oh boy. Yeah, that sounds like an excellent book. I really want to check it out and read it, and I'm excited that it's things actually like happening in the book as opposed to all the the weird how things relate to this and that, and just like sticking strictly to the book. I'm excited to read through.
Yeah, I think it's cool because I mean we are all really hardcore fans of the books, and we've obviously all of us, especially over at Tower of the Hand, have analyzed this book to death. You know, some of us on a more literary, like more intelligent literary scope, and some of us over here at the podcast on a more dick joke based level. But I think we've still all really, really analyzed the hell out of these books over the past few years, and it's interesting to see sort of a culmination of all of it. I feel like, you know, especially my essay is different from my voice on the podcast in the essay. So
Dick jokes.
yeah, no dick jokes, not even a single one. So
That's because Mimi is a very horrible, disturbed person, and Mimo is a very PC author.
Mimo 3000 is a particularly professional essayist.
But personality. Yeah.
We will talk about my essay after we do a Mystery Night episode, which has been the long-standing gap in the Duncan Egg coverage in our podcast. But we'll definitely do one of those, and then I guess we'll sort of snowball that in with the a review of my essay, and hopefully everyone in the world has read it by then. But today we're talking about Amines because I think that we can definitely get into it without spoiling anything for anybody. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your essay and what your inspiration was for it, Amin?
Sure. When I was writing my essay, I was trying to find some common elements in the plot or themes or something that can tie throughout the whole story. And the thing that I noticed was marital infidelity and adultery was a common thing that happened throughout the series that had a huge impact, not only on Westeros history, which I focus on, but most of the world there. And it's been a major driving point in the plot of the series, both leading up to it with Robert's Rebellion and in Game of Thrones and leading on. And it started with I guess the starting point that when I started was with the Jenna Lannister, Redwalder Hill theory, which we'll talk about again, and just the Lannisters. But then I noticed that actually a lot of the families, a lot of the kings in the War of the Five Kings were involved in adultery in some form or another. So it all just came together.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
do I get refreshments here, by the way, or do you offer refreshments?
No, there's no Dornish Red, there's no Arbor Gold.
Oh.
Well, I don't know. I'm in a beer girl costume at the moment, so.
Usually Amin brings those things here today, but he's not here.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
I just see a bunch of blood oranges all over the place. I don't know.
Blood oranges. Well, there's a lot of advantages of having blood oranges.
Do you think, Amin, that your involvement on the Unsavory podcast of Ice and Fire has maybe given you some sort of proclivity towards maybe reading into the sexual and romantic relationships in Song of Ice and Fire a little bit more readily?
I think definitely, and I mean, it's if you look at my footnotes or endnotes, there's a lot of references to the podcast. So a lot of the ideas in my work were first touched upon there, or I first touched upon there, and I went a little bit deeper in the essay. But I think that I'm pretty good, especially in the paper. I differentiate between things that are probable, possible, and just purely hypothetical. And I point out, like I refer to various theories as being offbeat or unlikely, but hear about it anyways, sort of thing.
As far as your offbeat or unlikely theories go, you're pretty well known for spouting off some of the most batshit insane theories on the podcast. Do those make it into your essay?
Is there any reference to a feathered hat?
Feathered hat. Now, I'm not sure if there's a direct reference to a feathered hat. I think I might have put that in an endnote somewhere. But like things that are definitely referenced either directly or an endnote are Blood Orange's theory, which is actually Kyle, which I referred to that episode. The heir to the Iron Islands is in there, and Jenna Lannister theory is in there, and even a theory by Nancy actually is in there somewhere in there. Yeah. So
Nancy coined a sexy theory. I've lost track.
Well, her theory, and not just her theory, but the one that she supported that theory was that instead of Tyrion being the potential, it was Jaime and Cersei. So I take a look at that in there under the realm of infidelity, because that would still fall into that.
Because as we discovered on the podcast, it is scientifically possible.
Yeah.
We researched
remember
this.
that.
Oh yeah, even though that they could have different fathers. Yeah.
Well, I mean, everything we've said on this podcast has been well researched. Absolutely.
Certainly. I know.
Also,
I firsthand studied the blood orange theory.
Yeah, I like how Kyle's offhanded and possibly sexually frustrated remark about blood oranges became an actual theory. Somehow we've turned that into Song of Ice and Fire canon.
No, but in the Guys Night Out episode, actually, when I brought that up, Elio shot that theory down right away. But Alex
Elio,
from Tower of the Hand actually put up a decent defense for it, like an interpretation of it. So,
Oh.
yeah, Guys Night Out
Well,
number 4.
As our unofficial sponsor, he's got to put on a bit of a front here. So
Yeah, exactly. He knew this book was coming along. So, yeah, I liked when I was reading through your essay. I really liked how there were a few points where I was like, "Oh no, he's going to go into all these crazy theories that we've come up with." But you really did a good job of saying, this may not be the case, or of really saying that this is a crackpot theory. But it's a possibility, and taking a very astute view of those crackpot theories and shooting them down or not, and I enjoyed that very much about your essay.
Yeah, what I tried to do is show that not all theories are equal. Some have a lot more evidence than others, and I just put them on the table, put the evidence there, and let the reader decide themselves instead of just hiding the more crackpot ones. People reading this paper and the other essays a lot of them might have just finished the series and they haven't seen any of these theories, and that's what they're looking for.
I'm just wondering what the demographic for this book is going to be, because, like, if it is the people who aren't on the forums, some of this would come right out of left field for them.
And I think it's I kind of wanted it to be like that. I want to jar them and be like, wow, I've never thought about that. And then I put references that I point to where they can read more about it. So I think that's part of the audience, is that people who haven't been on the forums. But part of the audience is people who have and just want to get into it deeper. So.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be an interesting mix of the two. And I was wondering about that as well as I was writing my essay, just thinking like, man, the people who live on Westeros, I mean, they've been through this forwards and backwards. I'm just skimming the surface of everything they've discussed before, But to a lot of people, thinking about the books in this context might be something they haven't done. You have, you could cull from this huge group of people who just got into Song of Ice and Fire because of Game of Thrones. And could be very new to sort of, going through the books and looking at them in this respect. So I think there's something for everyone here.
I agree. There's nothing wrong with being newer to the series and not having thought this deep or whatnot, and coming across an essay like this and having some really left field theories come at you and be like, holy shit, I never thought about that before. I think that'd be kind of exciting as someone who possibly has just started reading the series or just finished reading the series.
Yeah, I mean, you should look at I don't know if you guys have come across people who don't know the R plus L equals J theory. And by theory, I mean fact.
Yeah.
The first time you tell someone about that, you're kind of taking someone's Song of Ice and Fire theory virginity in a way. Because that's a big one that I think a lot of people who read through the books and just read them at surface value don't start to connect. And the first time you see their face get deflowered by the realization of the connections in the book, it's a beautiful thing. And
You live for that face.
I live for the Song of Ice and Fire virgins, and it's cool. It's really cool because I think you remember your first time, the first theory that just wowed you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And made you look at something differently. And I hope that, the book does that for people. Maybe not my essay in particular, but a lot of the other essays in here really have something for the Song of Ice and Fire fans.
It's funny because I've talked to people who have finished reading the series, and I'll say, okay, so let's discuss. And I'll say, I'll talk about the R plus L equals J theory, and they just look at me like I'm crazy. Like, no, that's not it at all, because Eddard came or Ned came right out and said who the woman was.
I love that. That you just pat them on their headgear.
And I'm like, oh, you're so innocent.
Oh, you're so cute right now.
So I've had to go both ways. I've had people like, yeah, I thought about that as it was going on, and then other people who are just like, no, you're crazy. We didn't read the same books. I know what's going on. You don't.
Yeah. It was Willa. Duh.
Yeah. Obviously.
It's a good test, actually, to ask if they even know about it, to see if they've actually been on the forums or thought about it deeply. I often start with that as a test to see how far they've gone.
Absolutely.
What I like
Yeah, and then
is
we ask them how they feel about blood oranges. That's the last test.
That's on the other side of the spectrum. That's like the total experts.
what I like is asking who they think the secret Targaryen is, and then just throwing out names, but then giving them the random facts that sort of support it, and just watching their face be confused as all hell. Because I could probably prove that Hot Pie is an Targaryen Targ.
I mean, you could make Targaryen links for just about every single character. We should do that one day.
Oh, nice. That'd be fun. We should do that.
Should have like the paint, like a chart or something, like the MS Paint chart with the links.
Amin lives for MS Paint. You know, Amin, and going through your essay, I was very impressed by your command of the English language. I know that being Canadian, you know, I was very surprised there were no A's in here, but just good job.
Well, they got cut in the draft.
Were there a few more U's and probably less Z's?
Yeah. Yes, I used I tried to use Canadian spelling for a lot of the stuff like OEU sort of stuff.
And Mark went through it and he was like, fuck
Canadian
this shit.
spelling?
Yeah.
Canadians? There's a different spelling
You don't know.
in Canada?
Kyle's getting educated every time.
Wait,
about this.
what?
Yeah.
Are you shitting me?
There is. There's because
We use English spellings.
but we don't. Not everything we do is exactly UK either. So it's kind of a mix. Yeah.
What?
Kyle,
So-
mind blown.
What's spelled different? Give me an example here.
Color
How do you spell color?
with a U.
A what?
You know Kyle is thinking C-U-L-U-R. Kyle already has trouble with English spelling, just
Lure.
American
I
style.
know. Come on. I dropped out of high school. Let's give me a break here. What? You guys are crazy.
Yeah, and you
Whatever.
Americans have like a fetish for the letter Z for some reason.
Wait,
I
we have a
don't-
fetish for the letter Z?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys stick it in words all the time, and it's like, eh.
Snoop Dogg
That,
sticks it in words, not the general public.
I do. I've actually dropped S's with plurals. Everything is a Z at the end now.
What?
Good luck reading my essay.
You Canadians and half-breed Americans. What's going on here?
Kyle, you don't know English. You
I'm
don't
a
write
people butt.
screenplays. You just read them. Come on now.
Hey, you don't even read the books.
What's a book?
The secret is Kyle actually has never read the books.
Roy Dotrice has just spoke them to me many times.
Kyle's secretly illiterate.
So, I mean, I was going to say, we were just talking about R plus L equals J and how that's like the driving bastard child and adultery, infidelity story and this and that within Song of Ice and Fire. But then one of the most interesting points I found in your essay was that it may not actually have been adultery, because the way the Dornish people are, that he may have actually been able to marry Lyanna and still have his wife. His wife would have been cool with it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very interesting that this main bastard child may not have actually been a bastard. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, in writing, and I mean the idea, and I point out, it is not unique to me. I mean that's been brought up, but I just summarized it basically that the Targaryens had the precedent of having multiple, like, you know, polygamous marriages, and Elia was from Dorne, which would be more open to that kind of idea, possibly. So that's what I said. And when writing the essay in general, I noted that a broader essay could have been. It could have been a more on bastards. Like I could have come at the angle from bastards. I could have done that. I came from infidelity, not always resulting in children, but you could have come at the same sort of facts and these stories from the angle of just bastard children. That would have been interesting as well. So.
I just want to cut in here at this point and say that the book is actually up for sale now, early apparently.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and
So I'll put up the link right after we finish recording.
yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
That's crazy. Oh my God, my name is an author on Amazon. You guys, I feel so fancy right now. I can't even handle it.
Wow, with your Bear Girl outfit. And
I know.
My name is an author on fanfiction.net.
You're dead to me, Ashley.
what's the name of this book?
Man, it's really exciting. Anyway, okay, sorry. But yes, get back to what you were saying. I mean,
Oh, that's I said it. So next.
I think it's interesting that you sort of not only just touch on the obvious, you know, players of infidelity, but you look at all the houses, the five kings, you know, at one point pretty evenly across the board and examine it in every house, you know.
Yeah, what was interesting is actually Balon Greyjoy. From what we've heard of him, he hasn't had any bastards, so that was interesting. And then I said, well, maybe he should have. Like that might have been useful given the situation with the succession in the Iron Islands. Although that wouldn't have necessarily guaranteed that it would have gone better. It could have still gone like worse.
Yeah, that could have bought things
We
up.
don't really know that much about him either, so
Yeah.
maybe it's
That's
just...
true.
Yeah, you know that maybe when he was young, he was like sailing around and
Yeah.
sowing his seeds. But he seems to be, he's still married to his wife, who's insane. But just
Maybe he's gay.
what's your
Yeah,
evidence?
you think on that. You think on that.
He does
Valley
have more
Greyjoy.
kids.
Yeah, I know. You can still have the kids though, right? And
Yeah, with
have
a
your
turkey
salt
baster.
boys on the side that nobody knows about. I mean, let's look into this, guys.
Well, we have to be careful. Like when I was saying that Galbert Glover might be gay, and he might be because he's unwed, and like he's specifically listed as unwed. And he you think he would have married at least once when he's supposed to be the heir. But I said you can't fall in the trap of saying that everyone is gay, sort of thing. It's like everyone's Targaryen, sort of thing. You can't.
Everyone's gay is there.
Yeah, but you know what? Song of Ice and Fire is the only series where like someone's lineage is more played out than someone's sexuality.
Yeah.
Saying no.
Looking at the other kings, with the king in the north, he wasn't actually unfaithful. He wasn't married yet, but it would have been better if he had kept Jane as a mistress. But though that doesn't match his personality, the end result might have been better.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Walder Frey would have never been like, you banged a chick while you were at war? Oh, God, I'm going to kill you, like he did when he married her.
Respected him more probably if he just slept with her and not married her.
He just wouldn't have gave two shits. I wouldn't say he would respect him more. I just think he wouldn't care.
Yeah. Exactly.
Doesn't matter. You're always banging girls during wartime. I mean, So...
Wisdom from Kyle. You're always banging girls during wartime.
Well, I
That's
know
why
I do.
The
So.
blood orange is double. Like they provide for vitamin C for like scurvy, and they also keep him around.
I like that you spent time on Dorne in here. I feel like you would as the ambassador of Dorne on this podcast. I was really glad that you took a look at their approach towards sex and sexuality and how they treat infidelity and bastards based on what we've gleaned from the books.
Yeah, I mean, when I was thinking of topics to write about, I thought about writing about Dorne, and I almost started writing about it. So it was on my mind, and when I did this, I thought because they're the outlaw. We already talked about this, I guess, when we did Beyond the Wall and sort of thing. When we said they were kind of like the outcasts, and in this case, again, their sexuality is different from the norm in Westeros. So it was worth looking at how things were there and how infidelity would potentially be less important there. So
Do they follow the Seven in Dorne?
I mean, some of them do. I'm sure that some people do. I mean, they even have isn't one of his daughters like technically a follower of the Seven, like one of Oberyn's.
Not sure.
I mean, they have Dorne is
Tyene, right?
Yeah, exactly. Dorne is a place of variety, so I'm sure that they have some of them do following the Seven, and some of them following that old Rhonish religion, I think.
Yeah, it just seems like it's the religion that's holding a lot of it back for the rest of Westeros. So maybe Dorne's more secular or less secular. I don't know.
That's a good.
Diane Sand, daughter of a Septa. Diane is the closest of all the Sandsnakes to her cousin, right? Yeah.
Daughter of a Septa.
Daughter of a
real
Septa.
religion.
Hey, Oberyn.
There we go.
Boss. He was boss.
There's some fan art, and she's in a little, religious outfit there.
Kyle, do you need a moment to calm down?
God, I'm just looking at this cartoon drawing of her. Oh, baby. It's like my henty fantasy right there.
I also like that you went into Jenna Lannister a little bit. Again, a character that probably not a lot of people pay attention to. Song of Ice and Fire fans on the first read through, but I think that's kind of interesting. So really good stuff. I mean,
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Jenna part. Of all of us talking about this for so long, I never really gave her much attention. But so it was fun to read that part.
Yeah, just to contrast her with Cersei and what Cersei could have learned from Jenna, and she didn't. And she's definitely, I mean, all the Lannisters are interesting in their own way, and she's definitely one of them. So.
Well, the difference between Cersei and Jenna is that Jenna outranked her husband, whereas Cersei didn't.
Yeah, that was definitely, she outranked her husband, one, and her husband also was like Weasley, right? He was no Robert. too. So those were differing factors, but she still could have learned from like what Jenna did. Like if she could have swallowed her pride and provided Robert with a couple heirs, then that might
Yeah,
have
that's true.
been a situation. So
Did you okay, did you in this essay say Jenna and Tom Seven Strings had something going on?
I predicted that it may happen in the future.
Oh, okay. Because I read that and I was like, what's he saying here about these two?
Just reading there, because I mean, well, my theory is saying that she's already had lovers before, and in fact that her latest child may be like a bastard born from one of those flings. But I'm saying that if even if that's not true, I think she's had lovers before, and Tom is the type of guy that might suit her because he has had a noble lady lover before, and like I have that in the footnote somewhere.
Oh, he has.
Was.
Oh, wow.
Was
Go Tom Seven Strings.
we actually meet her at some point too, I think. Like she
Really?
and she's mad at or like she's mentioned, yeah, Lady Revel's used to be.
Wasn't the ghost of High Heart trying to make out with him?
Maybe, yeah. I think he was popular with the ladies, and he had lots of sons. So
He's a player.
so he's there with Jenna now, so that in the same area. That
I mean, I could see him doing something to keep undercover.
Yeah.
And report back to the Brotherhood.
he's
But
doing what's necessary for his job, right? So
I don't see him just walking up to camp
Sacrifices.
being like, "Yo, Jenna, what's happening?"
I think it might go the other way. She might invite him for a private session of singing or whatever, and
It's singing.
Throat singing, if you know what I mean. Sorry. I hate myself.
Jenna, like I think that there's a lot of sexual power there. I think. Like,
Okay.
she
Is she described as being a particularly attractive woman? I didn't think so.
I never got that impression.
Well,
she's and I mean she's not
she's an older lady.
yeah she's elderly, and especially in that world most people are not going to age well, right?
She's like a cougar.
Yeah, basically that's what I'm saying.
What? Really? Is that the impression?
Not
you got?
necessarily, because I think Tom is close to her age, so it's not necessarily a cougar. But I mean, like when she was young, she was definitely a huge catch. I think we specifically talked about that.
Really? Well,
Like-
I don't remember talking about that.
She's like the older Gatehouse Amy.
She's like a way better version of Cersei. Like she was like probably almost as attractive as Cersei, except she's like way smarter and.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. Now I'm gonna have to read up on Jenna Lance.
Yeah. She was a box.
Kyle's like, now I'm gonna have to learn how to read.
See, you don't listen to. I listen to the old podcasts that we've done sometimes. So I remember that you said she's buxom and blonde, or at least somebody said that and you agreed. Buxom, blonde, and has vast tracts of land.
Okay.
I don't know that she was described as being that attractive. I thought she was kind of beefy.
Oh, now she is, but I mean, like, wouldn't be at like 50.
Appearance and character. In her youth, Jenna was shapely. Later, she is described as fat, square, with a broad and smooth face, intelligent and shrewd.
I just looked at the Amox portrait of her in Google image search.
Yeah.
1 out of 10 boners.
Put it
Man woodies.
now.
1 out of 10 man woodies for her.
It's the
It's
fact.
probably what Cersei will look like in 20 years.
Man.
I kind of want to write the diary of Jenna Lannister now.
Oh, you should.
Still these exploits of her
Yeah.
when she's younger.
I remember that day that Amin from a podcast of Ice and Fire called me buxom and blonde and beautiful.
The singer
highlight
left a
of
feather
life.
for a hat.
Oh, man.
Feathered cloak.
Now I'm looking at pictures. Yeah, the pictures
Now
are
Kyle's
totally... I know.
really
I'll
gonna
send you
need
the picture. I don't have the picture here.
She
I just Google image it here.
The podcast is Amok.
there's like a picture of Macaulay Culkin for some reason in the Google image search.
Copy image location. Okay.
Let's see.
Oh shit, how come I can't write to you guys? What's going on?
I actually just thought this was interesting when we got all of our essays back that, you know, I kind of figured from those of us in the podcast that I always felt like you had a real penchant for the historical aspects of Song of Ice and Fire, for the tactical aspects of it, the strategies. And, you know, you obviously bring a lot more of the understanding of the history and the intellectual side of the series to the podcast. And I'm kind of surprised that you didn't sort of go that route with it.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. I didn't know that the
There's some
subject was one that you
history
felt
here.
strongly about.
Like, I mean, the Blackfires and things like that. So I tried to weave everything under the general thesis of like infidelity affecting the series. So I put it in there. But if I do a future work, then I may go more into historical or whatever analysis.
Yeah, I figured that you would have written the historical one. I would have written the one about doing it, but
Yeah.
totally. We went in different directions. I think it was really interesting. Definitely writing, as far as my essay goes, writing it was it's very different from what I usually write, and felt a little outside of my comfort zone. And I really liked the experience, and I hope that readers like it. I hope they like yours too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty nervous. We're up there with some really good writers.
Yeah, you guys better be on top of your game. Shit. Nothing to get nervous about. I mean, I can't read them, but
Kyle's gonna wait for the audio version of the ebook, and then
can you guys read them to me at some point?
We're gonna
I lie in bed and eat grapes.
I wonder if we could even do that. Can we release like an audio book on Amazon and sell it?
I would totally listen to it. I hear I have a seductive voice, so
yeah, I'd be willing to do that too. I'd be willing to read my own essay and put it on there.
God, you guys are so full of yourselves.
Hey,
when
you write like one of these things, you can.
Okay.
No, but
I just started writing it right now. Actually, no.
You're learning the alphabet right now.
Cool.
You know what? This is an interview podcast episode, though. We're interviewing Amin. We're focused on him.
Okay.
That's the point.
You did talk a lot about the Blackfire in your essay.
Yes.
Is probably even. I mean, the whole Blackfire thing is probably way more important than the whole Jon Snow thing and his lineage as far as this series goes. And an intriguing thing that ties you in, I guess, with Mimi's essay as well. And it's just. It's such an important thing, and that people who read through the series the first time, I find, aren't very familiar with the Blackfires, and it's something so important that I'm glad you included that in your essay as well.
Yeah, I mean, the realm is still feeling the after effects of the Blackfires even now. Even if you might even believe that they're still around or not, which I touch upon. But even if they're not, like they had a huge effect. All these things, all these wars, all these consequences, just because Aegon the Unworthy couldn't keep it in his pants. It all came from that.
Well, I don't know if it's so much that as so much on the whole on his deathbed.
Yeah.
There's that English language getting in my way again. That's a big thing because there are tons of other kings and everything who have fathered so many bastards and whatnot, but him just saying, oh, they're good. They were my real kids too.
Yeah, that was his biggest mistake. I mean, you're right, and I do say that that's what compounded the problem and created it. Really was.
But you're a Targaryen loyalist saying that was his biggest mistake, because if you're a Blackfire loyalist, you're saying that was his greatest achievement.
I think he was just a troll.
Yeah. Basically, it was. If they do a picture of him, they should do a troll face on his deathbed. It is implied. That's exactly the way it's implied. He was just trolling them. He was dying, and he's just like, "Yep, I'm going to do this just to piss off everybody."
Is that just to piss off everyone? Is that really what you think? I think it's more. I realize that my legitimate son is going to be the worst king ever. So I want this better child. Here's the sword. Here's the legitimacy. Please rule this kingdom as it should be ruled.
Yeah, and I guess it depends on which historical view you're following, right? Because they're all biased. So if you hear that from the Blackfire side, that's exactly what they would say, and then Daeron from the other side. But
history's written by the victor, right?
But everything else up to that point, he seemed to be he was the unworthy, right? So it seemed that would be more in character with who he was. I mean, unless he was doing trying to pull a Robert on his deathbed, saying, "Oh no, I've got to make up for it." Yeah.
It would have been smart for him to do it maybe a few days before he died.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a huge way that infidelity has influenced and is still influencing for, what is it, the sixth generation now since all that happened? And not keeping it in your pants has affected the kingdom for that long. It's wild.
It's funny. It was probably just Aegon trying to be a good dad, trying to be there for all the bastards he never took care of.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to legitimize them, though. That's the thing. He could have still provided for them.
He could have just gave him a castle or something. I mean, come on.
He could have just hung out with his kids, but instead he was like, "Yeah, you're all my kids. You're all equally good. There you go."
Yeah, but my bastard child's better. That's what he was saying.
The fact that there was so many of them. I mean, Robert had many, but part of it was many of the children were just how many great bastards did Robert have? He had, who was it, Edric?
Edric Storm, yeah.
And then is there anybody else that has like really high lineage on the other side?
I don't think so.
Like there's the girl who was in like the Vale, but I don't think like, her side was very high.
My Stone, I don't think so.
Yeah. So
She
I
got
mean,
the name though. She got
Yeah.
Stone as the name.
but like so he had many bastards, but most of them were just with like prostitutes or whatever, like lower servants and stuff. But what Aegon did, he was sleeping with a lot of high women on the other side, so he ended up with all these great bastards, and they're much more likely to make a big claim there. So he put the realm in, and in fact, like if I remember correctly, he would even like steal women from people who were married, or at least that would fit like his personality. He was that kind of personality that he
Wash her and bring her to me.
Yeah, basically. So that caused a huge problem. You have all these great bastards floating around, and one of them still is around. So
Can you imagine if Robert had legitimized his bastards? I mean, that would have been amazing. Would have been an amazing book that happened.
almost got killed anyways, so. Or would have been, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, I mean, who's the oldest? It's Edric, isn't it?
Maya, I think.
Well, Gendry's
Maya.
pretty,
I thought Gendry was older than all of them.
because he was in the battle. Oh no, I don't know, but he had one before he even met Lyanna, kind of. That might have.
Yeah, I think it's Maya and then Gendry.
Well, Maya wouldn't have counted, you know.
Well, and his not infidelity again there because he wasn't married, but his potential for infidelity later, which Lyanna saw, was definitely a factor why she didn't like him. So it's another interesting thing.
Yeah, which actually brings me to a question I wanted to ask you guys. I know that this was sort of probably something that people, not to bring to my essay, but a point that I made that people disagreed with a lot. That, you know, I had said something about how Daemon Targaryen's reasons for rebelling are painted differently than Robert's because Robert won his rebellion. And I mentioned that Daemon's, you know, reasons were no less justified or noble than Robert's. And a lot of people didn't feel like that was the case. They felt like Daemon was just being petulant and trying to overthrow his own half-brother, whereas Robert fought for the woman he loved. But, I mean, you know, what do you guys, I know it's a bit of a deviation.
No, it's fine.
But what do you guys think of that? I mean, because any way you paint it, if Robert had lost his rebellion, then he would have just been this pissy little asshole that got mad that his fiance liked somebody better, you know?
Do you know, like, it's in the second book, it's the second story that we get, the Sworn Sword, where we hear a lot about this, right? In detail. And I think, like, even, who's the old guy? Sir Eustace?
Sir Eustace Osgray.
He shows and I agree with you that it really came down to who would have won that thing, and if it gone the other way, they had good points on Daemon's side and why he should have rebelled, and he had.
I mean, there were questions about Daeron's legitimacy, you know.
Yeah.
There are questions about his parentage,
Yeah.
and also Daemon being given the house sword by his father. I mean, there are things that can pull you in that direction. And I feel like had Daemon won, that the whole thing would have been different, you know?
Yeah.
Daeron would have been this little usurper who loved Dorne too much or something.
Yeah. Oh, the Dornish factor was one of the factors there. I don't know if was the influence of Dorne before the rebellion or after, but it was definitely there. Like things would have been gone differently with Dorne because Dorne was tied in with Daeron, right? And Daemon had nothing to do really with Dorne. In fact, I think they even gave away his, like, the person he wanted to marry. Was it his? Like, they gave away somebody that they wanted to marry to Dorne instead of like keeping with the Targaryens. It might have been his sweetheart or one of his like followers, and so like it was a complicated situation. If it had gone the other way, then relations with Dorne would definitely have been different, and the influence of Dorne would have been different. So
yeah, Daeron betrothed his sister to Meryn Martell, Prince of Dorne, so that was part of the anger there.
So I agree with you. I think people are being too tough on Daemon. Not so much that perhaps Daemon's goals were super high, but I don't see Robert's being much higher. I'd see them on the equal level, kind of, and it depends on who won.
I feel like Robert's rebellion, I mean, obviously the way you paint it, especially with Aerys being a total fuck up, is, you know, definitely, obviously it looks like Robert was doing the right thing, but something to keep in mind was, you know, Rhaegar would have been a good king.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, had we just gotten done with Aerys and put Rhaegar on the throne, it might have been a different incumbent that we were dealing with, and it might have looked different. I mean, you know, when you read about what happened to Brandon Stark and Rickard Stark. I mean, obviously, horrific things were done at the hands of the Targaryens, but really what it looked like to me, and I love Robert. You guys know he's my boy, you know? But it looked like to me that Robert got mad that his fiance ran off with Rhaegar Targaryen.
Yeah.
Which is why he paints it as rape and this brutal thing. But we get the hints that Lyanna wasn't even feeling it. From Robert.
Yeah.
And looks like he got pissy about that. And when Jon Arryn raised his banners to stand behind Robert, as his almost fucking like foster father, to protect him, then it ended up like forcing the realm into this direction where Robert took up the banners of rebellion. I mean, he didn't want the throne. That's the thing. Yeah. Daemon wanted the throne. It looks like Robert's rebellion, his taking the throne, his usurping that position was kind of the byproduct of him trying to get his girlfriend back, And it didn't, I don't know. I'm not totally sure that the intent was really there or that it was all that noble. But he won, and that makes the difference.
Yeah, and it would be interesting if, I don't know if we'll get it, it would be to see Bloodraven. Like, no, Bloodraven was on the other side, though. But Bloodraven was somebody who did interact with Daemon, right?
Correct. So, Bloodraven was the loyalist.
So,
yeah.
But just because he fought against Daemon doesn't mean we wouldn't get some interesting information about Daemon, or like he could have still respected him and just fought on the other side.
Yeah. I think you're assuming a lot with Daemon's motivation there, Mimi. I mean, he always struck me as somebody who was sort of, I mean, his hand wasn't forced. So I guess it kind of was. It didn't seem like to me, because he didn't take the throne right away. The rebellion didn't start right after he was legitimized. Oh my God, I hate that word so much. And and he it seems like he was sort of pushed towards that through the people that surrounded him and everything, and the rumors that Daeron, right? Yes, wasn't even a true wasn't even the true king's son, and that there was Aemon the Dragon Knight was involved with his heritage and whatnot. And so,
I mean,
he could have not wanted to throw the realm into it, and eventually been forced by the people around him, or not so much forced, but just convinced that things would be better. And he
definitely had a lot of advocates pushing him for it. But you raised an interesting point here. We don't know that his reasons were necessarily the way that they were described later. I mean, it seemed to me that he got mad because Daeron betrothed his sister, to another dude. And, this could have been just over a woman, too, and escalated into a much bigger thing. Yeah. But...
Well, yeah, I'm just looking at the wiki because I hadn't remembered the order of things, but at least the wiki does say that it was the triggering point for him was when they sent the princess to Dorne instead of marrying him. Like, then they potentially were actually in love, which is more than Robert and Lyanna were. If they were both going both ways, it was like reciprocal love, right?
Apparently, that Daenerys was supposedly in love with Daemon Blackfyre, and
yeah. But it's funny, the wiki says, though he'd fathered 7 sons in the 12 years before he rebelled, so he had a bit of Robert in him too.
She could have been the one, you don't know.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it would have been an interesting parallel too. I mean, had that been the case, Daemon's rebellion, Robert's rebellion was just because they couldn't get the woman they wanted.
Yeah. Many who disliked the Dornish influence and the academic nature of Daeron's court preferred Daemon's rugged charisma and apathy toward learning and religion.
I love that Daemon is just like the redneck, like just the rowdy, all-American male, and we don't need no education. Give me that Iron Throne.
And he gets killed because, well, at least what Eustace says, that he was actually being honorable in the battlefield, right? He was trying to help out a guy who was fighting, like to get treatment for.
Correct, Sir Gawain Corbray.
Yeah. If he had just kept fighting, then he might have survived and might have won that battle because it was definitely a close.
I mean, Sir Eustace definitely romanticized Daemon in a way that you don't see at all. Because, I mean, you're sitting here listening to Egg and the Dunk and Egg books, and later on, the way they paint the Blackfyre Rebellion was like, hey, this asshole Daemon got a bunch of people killed and totally came out of nowhere and did this, unsupported bid for the throne. And then you look at it from Sir Eustace Eustace's side, and there's this painting of Damon as this big romantic hero, and he obviously looked like the king and acted like the king, and he was all of these things, and Darren was this little man with a pot belly and no sword, you know. And it's very interesting, and I'm kind of like the marketing of the Targaryens.
So I think at this point, I guess we should save the rest for the Mystery Night episode, which we must do because we're all into it now. And
yeah, now we're excited.
It's the Dance of Dragons of our podcast is the Mystery Night episode. That's how long.
I love talking about the Blackfires, man. It's so interesting to me. It's one of my favorite parts of the books.
As you can tell, I don't know much about it, which is why I'm just keeping my mouth shut.
Well, you just have to open up Wiki of Ice and Fire, like at least me and Amin are right now.
I'm just like, where are you guys reading all this? It's just like something I
We're
don't
not
know.
reading this. We know this.
I can't read
for years.
Kyle's got
Just because I just buy the graphic novels and not the actual short stories.
Yeah.
Hey, you get to see
but the graphic novels are just like they won't have everything there. They're an adaptation. They'll be good, but they can't have everything that the text has. Just the way the HBO show can't have either.
Don't compare the HBO show to the graphic novels, please. Come on. Come on. I didn't see a single Roz in any of the graphic novels.
Oh, there probably will be. But imagine if they put Roz in the graphic novels.
Turns out she was in the She-Wolves of Winterfell.
She was the author.
You just turn the page and somebody's flashing their cooter at everybody, and you're like, oh, sweet Jesus.
No, actually, seriously, your homework is to read up and get ready for that Mystery Night episode because the Blackfire Rebellion is some interesting stuff. Kyle, your homework is to learn how to read.
Do you want me to learn real English or Canadian English?
Real English, come on now.
Canadian English is closer to UK English, which is proper English. Your English is just like this offshoot.
Don't let it mean and ask.
It's like Blackfire.
He's in everything, Kyle.
United States English is Blackfire. English.
Inverted. It only survived in the female line. Okay.
But I wanted to bring it up because I thought it was just kind of an interesting idea that we've touched upon in this podcast. But history is written by the victors.
Yeah.
And there's always that what if things that turned out differently, how would everyone's causes and motivations, how would it have looked, And I think especially in Song of Ice and Fire, it's interesting that we have all the sympathy for the Starks and they're obviously not the ones winning anything.
Not yet.
But I think George does a really good job of constantly making us question what people's motivations are and how they're represented and how they're misconstrued.
And infidelity is used as a tool. Like, I mean, with Daeron, they question his legitimacy, whether it's true or not. With Stannis, they question. We know that's not that he wasn't. That's his daughter, but they use that as a tool. And even with when people were rebelling against Joffrey, Renly and other people were saying, hey, you're just using this as a tool. So it can be used one way or the other, regardless of the facts, as a political tool. So
yeah, it's like one really doesn't care because it's like as long as Cersei's kids are considered legitimate, then they have more power.
Yeah.
Or no, Highgarden. They're the ones because they're married into it.
Exactly, yeah. And in fact, Kevin brings that up, I think. Kevin is telling them that if Cersei is found guilty on some of these things, that could question Tommen's legitimacy, which would then affect Margaery, right? So in terms of power. Although the Tyrells also have a lot of troops, so
I was gonna say by then the Tyrells will run everything.
They got
anyway,
troops,
so
they can start a new thing. So.
They're already running King's Landing, so
yeah.
Jesus.
I don't know. It's all pretty interesting. I guess one thing that they teach you in management is it's like everything is all about perception.
Yeah.
It's all about what people perceive that you're doing or not doing, and less to do with what you're actually doing. And I really love that aspect of Song of Ice and Fire. And Ashley brought up writing the Diary of Jenna Lannister, but it would be really interesting if you got like just a diary of any character throughout the entire thing. Obviously, we have all these major characters POVs, and they're the ones we sympathize with. But I mean, imagine if you did have the motivations of every character would be this revelatory experience, I think.
Well, that's kind of like now that we're starting to get more of Barristans, it kind of feels like that. We're getting a bit of an inside look at everything that we've seen so far.
It's great. It's one of my favorite things that George does. I keep thinking about other characters that I'd like for him to go back and do that with. Wouldn't it be interesting if you saw Roberts and he was actually like really, really intelligent and Just a mental
Sitting by a
powerhouse.
campfire with his glasses on, reading a book.
He's like a major romantic
Yeah.
that falls in love with every woman he sleeps with.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what you'd be more likely to see is that he actually truly knew that Liliana had left him. Like, he even kind of admits that himself. He just keeps lying to himself. But
Yeah.
in his diary, he might like put it out there or as a something.
Dear diary.
Bang some
Today I
bitches.
drank too much and fucked too much.
Or not
Where the
enough.
bitches at?
Sorry, guys. I just read my diary. I didn't bring that onto the podcast.
Okay. Well, are we done with the essay then, or do we want to do the reread?
Yeah, I think that about wraps it up.
Okay.
I mean, we're actually hitting about the 7 o'clock mark here.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Okay.
I think that makes for a solid up.
Yeah, I think so.
Solid.
So I think that concludes our discussion or roundabout discussion of Amin's essay, Game of Beds and Tower of the Hand, A Flight of Sorrows, the new ebook from Tower of the Hand. I just had to sell it again in case you guys didn't remember what I said. But, really, if you're into the books at all, if you listen to the podcast at all, you should definitely take a look. See if you like the essays, the samples that are up on Tower of the Hand, and let us know what you think of it. Let Amin know what you think of his excellent Canadian English. And, give us that feedback on Amazon.
And we might have one or two of the other authors on at some point, like Stefan or Alex, to talk about their works.
Can we have Mimo on at some point?
Nemo's agreed to be
Yeah.
on. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Amin, for being on our illustrious podcast. We hope that you
Yes.
Thank
Thanks
you for having
joining
me.
us.
Yeah.
enjoyed the podcasting.
Do I get
experience.
any goodie bags here? Or?
No, you get nothing.
Okay.
You may have an orange.
So,
I heard Amin needs those oranges, so
And a lemon cake that Kyle dropped on his shoe.
yeah. God damn it.
And listeners, thank you for listening, and thank you for picking up the book if you have already. Leave it a review on Amazon. Let us know what you think, or Facebook, Twitter, forums. You know the drill.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
I'll put this in the after show because I do have something. I'll tell you anyway. I think I'll put it in the after show real quick. Okay. You know the board game, like the FFG board game I told you about, Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm in contact with them now, and they agreed to be interviewed, like the producer for the board game.
Well,
You're not going to be able to play it and learn it in time for the interview.
You doubting my skills?
whoa.
Yeah, I am actually.
Oh.
I do think you should try it out though.
I wouldn't mind joining in. I mean, do we have to hide the fact that I haven't played it?
No.
Can I just be like the guy who hasn't played it,
Oh, that's
and you
good.
are the guy who has played it? And I mean, why can't?
Yeah, and we will describe like the game at the start and stuff. It's just at certain points I will be getting deep into the game, like questions that will like make no sense because you haven't played it.
I don't understand what you guys talk about anytime on the podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You see how Ashley hit her
Okay, well, that's
conclusion about
actually-
Blackfire?
Yeah.
I do think that it's good if you guys be there. So we'll just see what their schedule is like, and
yeah, if I can fit into the schedule, I mean, absolutely, I'd love to be here for everyone, no matter how out of my league I am. So.
I was wondering how you guys felt about this recording schedule, because it seems like Friday right after work is a good time for me. I can try and keep that free.
This is good for me now in January. My schedule might change up a bit, but Fridays are usually pretty good for me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me know, guys. I really want to do the Mystery Night episode next. We've been talking about
Yes.
stop, so.
well, I could do it next Friday, if not earlier.
Okay.
I'm actually off next Friday, so that
But we
works
have
well
time
with
to read
me.
it. Right.
Yeah. Ashley,
She's just gonna sleep all day.
But the-
I've read it like 800 times.
Hey, before we stop recording, can I give a shout out? Hashtags by Noah on Twitter. I was supposed to meet this dude in Seattle for a beer, and I feel terribly awful that I had to run out without joining this guy. So sir, I apologize. And next time I'm up that way, drinks on me.
Yeah, and
Oh, that's so nice. Hey, I met a podcast listener on my birthday, too.
Oh, did you have the Texas meetup thingy?
No, not yet. That's going to be
Oh.
next weekend, and it's going to be fun. It's actually just probably going to be me, Anita, and then Alicia.
Oh,
So,
3 ladies, huh?
it'll just be me and some bitches. That's how I
The
roll.
bitches at... You are King Rob.
if you're a fan of Mimi and the
With all this
podcast,
drinking now too.
you
and stuff.
definitely should show up to that thing. It's like your best chance ever.
You should definitely show. Maybe I will wear a German beer girl costume the whole time. So you have that incentive to see me look
You can bring your
ridiculous.
Well, next
e-reader?
weekend that's the weekend
Yeah.
before Halloween, so it's when everyone's in costume, isn't it?
Exactly. Come out in costume. I just
Cosplay event.
there will be some fine ladies there. I mean, not me per se, but Anita will be there, and I'm bringing some pretty ladies. So I think you guys should all come out. It's gonna be Houston. It's gonna be at Anita's house, and we're gonna do a potluck or something. I don't know.
Bring your e-reader with the ebook, and Mimi will sign your e-reader with the.
I will sign it. I